MMORPGs are games that players can sink thousands of hours into, so understandably no one wants to play one of these games that are perceived to be dead, dying, or in a state of decline. So in this video I'm going to list the most played MMORPGs going into 2025 that all have healthy populations and shouldn't die anytime soon. Unlike most people who make these kind of videos, I won't be using data from MMOpopulations.com, as this website is verifiably wrong about most games, as you can see with its data on Albion Online, claiming that this game has only 15k daily players, when the devs released data saying it was above the 300k range only a few months ago. This list has a few new additions as well as some changes in the rankings compared to the last time. Interestingly, there's a few MMOs on here that have actually been growing in player base for quite some time. But before we get into it, support the content by listening to today's sponsor. Go Muffin, a fun and relaxing mobile MMORPG taking the world by storm. Go Muffin's all about having fun without the grind. Level up effortlessly with idle gameplay, then jump into thrilling dungeons with your friends. Whether you prefer manual or auto battle, there's a playstyle for everyone. Team up with 4 to 6 players to take on the mighty Dragon Bounty dungeon, coordinate your attacks, maximise your DPS, and strategize to avoid devastating explosions. Climb the leaderboards and prove that your team is the best. Or gather your friends for the challenging Rifts dungeon, master your timing, unleash powerful skills, and work together to defeat the boss and earn epic gear. With 9 unique skills to choose from and countless combinations, you can create the perfect build for your playstyle. As you progress, evolve your class, collect adorable Melamons, and unlock awesome mounts and companions. And don't forget to summon, and with a little luck you might snag a legendary Melamon. Join a guild or create your own, chat with friends and show off your stylish outfits. Go Muffin has it all, so download Go Muffin today for iOS and Android using the link below. Starting out with Foxhole, this is an MMO that many people overlook, but with thousands of players at war on a single server, Foxhole certainly qualifies for this list. In this game, players spawn in as nothing more than a simple soldier, a small cog in the war machine, and everything relating to combat logistics, from bullets to weapons, vehicles and fuel, is all supplied by other real players. Foxhole fully released in September 2022 after multiple years in early access, and has actually been growing in player base ever since, whilst also sitting comfortably at very positive reviews on Steam. Oh, and if you're looking at this game and wishing there was a medieval version, then I have very good news for you. The developers of Foxhole are indeed making a medieval version called Anvil Empires, which you can already wishlist on Steam now. Maplestory is another surprise MMO on this list that in the past few years has seen a major resurgence in player numbers. Look at the player count on Steam charts, it's on a 4-year uptrend, and that's not even considering that most people play via the Nexon launcher, so actual player numbers are much higher. If you've never played before, Maplestory is a 2D anime side-scroller MMO that has surprisingly fun combat, boss fights, a nostalgic art style, and tons of classes, as well as a highly active content creation community on YouTube, Twitch, and Reddit. Whilst researching this video, I was really surprised to see Maplestory doing so well, so perhaps it's time for another revisit soon. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Despite being 13 years old at this point, Star Wars: The Old Republic still has a reasonably sized player base, and is still receiving updates, although much less frequent than it used to. If you've never played it before, SWTOR is a traditional tab-targeting theme park MMO that's highly praised for its story. The game also has a nice player housing system, and a decent mix of PvP and PvE content. Realistically though, despite having a player base, SWTOR might only have one more expansion left in it before going full maintenance mode. Luckily, thanks to the story, this is a game that's still possible to enjoy solo. Since my last video, Lost Ark has had quite the fall from grace, going from one of the most played MMOs shortly after its global release, to barely making this list. Despite its drop over time, the game does still have a player base, and I still think Lost Ark has the best combat out of any top-down MMORPG. It's definitely worth trying out if you've never played it before. Big titty anime characters, flashy combat, epic PvE boss fights both solo and group, with some PvP available if you fancy it. Hopefully the devs step in with a drastic update sometime soon to bring people back to the game, because at its core the gameplay is very good. The endgame loop, however, not so much. Modern RuneScape, aka RuneScape 3. This is the least popular, most heavily monetized version of RuneScape. We do have accurate data for this game, and as you can see from the chart, the player count has mostly flatlined over the past 10 years, ranging from 25k to 35k concurrent peak players. In my opinion, RuneScape 3 is worth playing, only if you play Iron Man mode, which prevents the pay-to-win cash shop completely ruining your sense of accomplishment. This point-and-click sandbox MMORPG has a ton of content, and I actually plan on revisiting it myself with a fresh Iron Man character soon. EVE Online, another 20-year-old MMORPG that still has an active player base that we can also see accurate player data for over at eveoffline.net. This is a free-to-play sci-fi sandbox MMO that's famous for its massive galactic-scale battles in which you'll join a corporation, earn money with your spaceship, and work with others to control sectors of space. EVE still ranges from 25k to 35k peak concurrent players every day, and given that there's no other similar MMOs, it probably isn't going away anytime soon. New World has recently had a console cross-platform release, so the Steam chart numbers no longer accurately reflect the entire player base, but in total with console, I'd estimate the game to have daily peak concurrent player numbers in the 30 to 40k range. If you've never played it before, New World is quite a unique MMO in that it has a Souls-like feeling combat system and blends aspects of survival with theme park MMORPG. It's got dungeons, raids, an open world, as well as PvP battlegrounds and territory wars. Sentiment from the PC player base towards New World was quite negative in 2024 due to a lack of meaningful updates, with the focus clearly being on the cross-platform release and rebrand. I suspect the game will see player numbers rise again with the next major expansion. Guild Wars 2 has recently turned 12 years old, and due to it being the king of horizontal progression in the MMO genre, as well as it being a buy-to-play, no sub-fee title, this game has easily maintained a consistent player base. Whilst we don't have exact player data numbers for Guild Wars 2 with most people using the official launcher over Steam, I'd expect it to have somewhere in the range of 40 to 60k daily peak concurrent. It was announced earlier in 2024 that Guild Wars 3 is in the early stages of development, and Guild Wars 2 is still earning decent money for NCSoft with regular updates, so I'd expect this game to remain popular and stick around for a fair few years to come. Once Human is a new free-to-play open-world post-apocalyptic survival MMO and has taken a rather interesting seasonal approach to its design. Every few weeks there's a new season where everything resets and the world is different each time. This causes big fluctuations in the player numbers, as it's obviously pointless to start playing the game 1 to 2 weeks before a reset. Regardless, the game's maintained a large player base since launch, and with both mobile and console releases on the horizon, I'd expect player count to increase quite a bit for this game in 2025. Elder Scrolls Online, another hard MMO to estimate player count, as most people play via the official launcher rather than Steam, and it's also really popular cross-platform on console. For this one, I'd estimate around 60 to 80k daily peak players, maybe more. ESO has just turned 10 years old and it's still getting yearly expansions. The game's got content for everyone, fans of PvP, PvE, player housing and story enjoyers, and it's a buy-to-play MMO, although to avoid spending hundreds on DLC, you're probably going to want to subscribe. Black Desert Online released globally over 8 years ago at this point, and it's still one of the most popular MMOs, especially in Asia. The Steam data for this game really isn't accurate, as most people play off Steam, with there being different launchers for the game depending on your region. BDO is a sandbox MMO that to this day is widely considered to have the best action combat in the MMO genre. It's certainly more of a mob grind style MMO, although in recent years the devs have tried making more traditional PvE style content. Despite having a daily peak concurrent player base that I'd estimate to be likely close to 100k, many BDO players haven't been happy with the recent updates. Hopefully things improve in 2025. Albion Online has continued to rise in player numbers over the past couple years, not only due to its mobile release, but also releasing new servers. A few years back, this game only had NA servers, but now it's got servers for both Asia and Europe, so more people can enjoy the game without getting wrecked by bad ping. If you've never played before, Albion is a free-to-play sandbox MMO that's got a lot of interesting content for both PvP and PvE players. It's regularly updated, has a large content content creator community, and recent data released by the devs shows the game reaching a milestone of 350k daily players, with 27k concurrent being the Steam record. Given that most people play off Steam via the official client or on mobile, I'm estimating the game probably has a concurrent peak of around 100k. Throne and Liberty is a new addition to this list, releasing on Steam with an initial peak of 300k players, bleeding out to around 100k 2 months post-launch. If you account for the console player base on both PS5 and Xbox, as well as the separate Korean version of the game, then the player numbers are most likely much higher. Throne and Liberty is one of the few Korean MMOs to take a more Western approach to design, including traditional PvE content in the form of dungeons, raids, and solo bosses with interesting mechanics. This game has a rather clunky tab targeting combat system, a focus on guild vs guild territory wars at endgame, and unlike most Korean MMOs, a progression system that isn't an infinite RNG grind. Given that this is a game that's just recently launched, I would expect it to fall down quite a few spots on next year's list, unless the devs can release some updates to improve its fundamentally clunky gameplay. Final Fantasy XIV is a theme park MMO and the #1 competitor to World of Warcraft that's known for both its storytelling and epic endgame raiding. Like WoW, FF14 has a major expansion roughly every 2 years, and we don't really have any concrete data on actual player numbers other than Steam charts, which only show a fraction of the actual player base, given that most people don't play on Steam and the game's also available on console. Final Fantasy XIV is definitely in the top 3 MMOs in terms of popularity, however based on a number of factors such as social media engagement, viewership and trends, I'd personally estimate it to be number 3. Old school RuneScape is truly an MMO that's not only stood the test of time, but has also gone from strength to strength, gaining players and relevance since its release. OSRS is one of the few MMOs to show player numbers, and the game frequently peaks at 150k concurrent. As of releasing this video, it's probably much higher, with the temporary game mode Leagues 5 having just released. I'm probably playing it myself right now actually. If you've never played it before, the appeal of OSRS is that it's an MMO that will keep you addicted for thousands of hours due to the incremental upgrades and content being designed in a way that doesn't make previous content irrelevant. The game's highly customizable nowadays thanks to the Runelight client, it's crossplay on mobile, the game's very frequently updated, and in 2025 it's likely there'll be an official HD mode released by Jagex, enticing more new players to the game. In the past 5 months alone, I've put over 1,000 hours into OSRS on my new Iron Man character, and I genuinely believe that this MMO will still be here in another 10 years' time. World of Warcraft stopped publishing its subscriber numbers almost a decade ago at this point, but that hasn't stopped people combining a bunch of data to make solid estimates. In 2024, Bellular Gaming made a full video estimating WoW to have roughly 7 million subscribers. Now obviously you've got multiple different versions of WoW, you've got Retail, Vanilla Classic, Classic Expansions, and Season of Discovery, but all of those are accessible with one subscription, and many WoW players will hop between the different versions of the game depending on what's hype at the time. On every metric, WoW still seems like it's the top dog in the MMORPG genre. From Twitch viewership, social media engagement, YouTube and Reddit, WoW does the highest numbers and doesn't appear to be going anywhere anytime soon. But that's it for this list. We've had quite a few new entries this year, as well as some older MMOs surprisingly climbing the rankings. The ones that surprised me the most personally were Foxhole, Maplestory and old school RuneScape, as well as seeing how much Lost Ark has dropped down by. How much do you think this list will change in 1 year's time? You reckon there'll be any new additions? Ashes of Creation Alpha 2 perhaps? If you enjoyed this vid, then help us out with a like for the algorithm, subscribe for more MMO content, social media on screen, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.